But the odds could have no effect on this fight's outcome.
After beating him the first fight, I felt that maybe if I put even a little more pressure on him than I did the first time, then I could maybe knock him out, because I was putting pressure on him and keeping him busy the whole time and making him worry about what I was going to do to him rather than what he was going to do to me. I think Robinson's best punch was anyone he hit you with. And he could hit you and hurt you with any punch he threw. The first 4 rounds, I was putting more pressure on him, and he seemed to be wielding, and everything seemed to be working according to the plan that we had scheduled, which probably gave me a little false security that everything was going right, and I was putting a little more pressure on him and maybe getting a little reckless in doing what I was doing.
This recklessness had the manager in his corner quite concerned.
He was swinging as hard as he could swing, but when he was swinging, he was coming out with his chin open. And I cautioned him every time. I'd say, Gene, it's okay to swing, but keep that one hand up if you're going to swing. Keep one hand anyway up. Don't have both hands down. The 5th round, the bell rang. They both come out to the center of the ring, start fighting. You could tell that Robinson figured that was his round. This is the round he's going to go at. He was definitely trying to get one shot in there. He was trying to set up Gene so he'd get one shot.
About midway in the 5th round, I wasn't watching my hands quite as well as I was. I moved in with my right hand about 6 inches lower than what it should have been, and he slipped a left hook right over the top of it and caught me right on the chin, and then all at once the lights went out. This was the first time I'd ever been knocked down or knocked dizzy in any form. I had no idea what it was supposed to feel like, and I can't tell you now what it felt like even.
At the time of the punch, I was seated in the working press. And I remember all the newspaper men, as well as the whole arena, getting up and say, "Did you see that punch? That was perfect." And it was. It was the perfect punch.
That's the painless way to go, because I never felt a thing and I didn't know what had happened at all until I stood up in the end of the round and Robinson was over in the corner jumping up and down, and I thought that he's in marvelous condition for this late round. How come he's doing exercise between rounds? And my manager crawled in. I said, "What happened?" He said, "They counted 10. And I knew that it had to be on me because I hadn't heard any of it. And it was a crazy feeling, but it was over.
Because Sugar Ray Robinson was a master boxer and could finish a fight with one punch and had great heart and courage as well, most experts have viewed him as the greatest of all fighters pound for pound. Do you agree?
Well, as being one of the greatest, I agree, but to be #1, I think that right only belongs to Muhammad Ali.
That surprises me a little, Mike. First of all, because you're a slugger. It's sort of like Billy Crystal saying Arnold Schwarzenegger is the funniest guy he knows. Why Muhammad Ali?
Because of reasons of he's 70 pounds heavier than Sugar Ray Robinson.
Yeah?
Much faster than Sugar Ray Robinson.
Faster.
And also a masterful boxer that has everything that goes along with being a great champion, besides the punch, the courage, the character, and all-around technical ring gentlemanship. And just from that point of view, you have to rank him among the greatest. And if he has you hurt, he will finish you.
Have you ever thought of what it would be like for Mike Tyson to go against Muhammad Ali?
I never thought of the situation.
Never once?
Never.
Even a little bit?
Never. Because in my mind, I believe I'm the greatest fighter in the world. And I can't relate to nothing unless it's reality. If there's something about, if it could ever happen, if Ali was around now, then I could relate more so. But as far as me dwelling to the past, how I would have done with Ali, then you have to take Ali when he's 20 and put me when I'm 20, and then we'll be evenly matched, and then let us fight each other.
Sounds like you think you might have come out okay. Of all the knockouts, one-punch knockouts, brutal knockouts, the comeback knockout is often the most dramatic. A triumphant climax to a lost cause. What a story. Or to paraphrase Yogi Berra, You're not out until they count you out.
In the most dramatic knockouts, one man falls to the canvas. But not every knockdown is a knockout. In this contest, light heavyweight champion Archie Moore fought to stay on his feet, fending off a game challenge by Canadian fisherman Yvon Durrell. Moore was being punished mercilessly, and following a second knockdown, seemed hardly able to survive the first round. The beating continued as Durrell connected again in the fifth. Moore was down, but not out. As the challenger began to fade, Moore rose to the occasion, sending Durrell crashing to the canvas in the seventh, and again in the 10th round. Although saved by the bell, there was little doubt that Durrell would fall. The champion punctuated his triumphant comeback with a final blow. He later boasted, "This was my finest hour." One of boxing's leading authorities on the knockout punch was Rocky Marciano. With an incredible string of 37 knockout victories, he had earned the right to challenge Jersey Joe Walcott for the heavyweight title. In superb condition, Rocky was surprised when Walcott, 10 years his senior, charged out in the opening round and caught Marciano with a perfectly timed left hook, putting the 2-1 favored challenger down for the first time in his career. The bombs continued, every punch intended to end the bout. Rocky was having trouble seeing from a liniment that rubbed off Walcott's gloves as Jersey Joe pounded away. His vision clearing by the 13th. Marciano rebounded when Walcott loaded up a right hand. But Rock delivered first. A crushing right to the jaw crumpled the champion and wrote a new name in the heavyweight book, Rocky Marciano, the Brockton Blockbuster. Jake LaMotta may have forgotten about the record book because Laurendo Teal took a decision in their first bout just a few months before LaMotta won the middleweight championship. In this rematch, Teal, a solid boxer puncher, jogged the champ's memory, sagging him against the ropes as his title waned. The Frenchman needed only to remain standing to become the next champion, but unwisely moved in for the kill as LaMotta opened up, unleashing amazing reserves. Then, a devastating left and a right flush to the jaw sent the challenger reeling. With just 13 seconds left, LaMotta had rallied back from certain defeat to retain his crown. In a rare modern attempt to unify the welterweight championships, Thomas Hearns met Ray Leonard in a seesaw battle, exchanging roles of aggression and retreat. In the early rounds, Leonard danced away from the hitman's long jab, but standing toe-to-toe, Thomas fired at will. In the sixth, it was Leonard on the offensive, wounding his quarry, then swiftly taking advantage. This time it was Hearns backpedaling as Leonard set the pace, capturing the next 2 rounds. But Hearns regained his earlier aggressive posture, focusing his attack on Leonard's swollen left eye.
You're blowing it now, son. You're blowing it. We got to take it away from you.
Leonard's trainer, Angelo Dundee, knew the score. Ray knew the mission. In the 13th round, he exploded in a fusillade of fists, determined to knock Hearns out. Then one more round, one last combination, and Ray Leonard had come back from a losing battle to win the war.
It's over, and Ray Leonard is the undisputed
For
welterweight
Hearns,
champion
a
of the
fall
world.
just short of an undisputed welterweight championship as his prize.
The heavyweight championship of the world is the biggest prize in sports. And more people have challenged for it, and more have tried and failed, but at least they did try. And Billy Conn felt the same way. Not only that, he was a brash young Irishman out of Pittsburgh. He was a tough, cocky little guy. He thought he could beat Lewis, and the way he fought, maybe he could have.
Lewis in the ring, contrary to what most people thought, was a very heady boxer. He was a good thinker in there, especially for the heavyweights who weren't known for their thinking ability. he was formidable because he made very few mistakes. And if you made a mistake against him, you got hit with one of those terrific counter shots.
Kahn was a light heavyweight champion, gave up his title before the Lewis fight, and he still was a light heavyweight when he fought Joe Louis. Joe Louis weighed about 200 pounds. Kahn only weighed about 168 pounds.
The idea about fighting is don't let the guy hit you. If they can't hit you, they can't hurt you. You have to keep your hands up and punch real straight. No roundhouses, because if you go straight to it, you're going to get there first.
I think it was a kind of a crowd that, while they respected the great Joe Louis, they were rooting for the underdog, the young kid from Pittsburgh. Kahn was using his speed. He was in and out. One good thing in Kahn's favor was that Louis had never fought anybody with the speed of Kahn.
He kept moving to the left, and he kept moving to the right, and kept that sharp left hand continually keeping Louis off balance and breaking up Louis's attack.
The main thing is don't let him hit you. Keep your hands up and move from side to side and mix him up. If you keep backing up, he's going to follow you. All you have to do is keep the left in his face and keep your hands up and keep your ass off the floor.
Now we come to the 12th round, and this, too, was a great round for Billy Conn. He was all over Louis, and Louis was having a time blocking the punches, and Conn was fearless. Billy Conn staggered Louis. If Conn had been able to win one of the next 3 rounds, the 13th, 14th, and 15th, he would have been the heavyweight champion of the world.
Blackburn was the voice in the corner for Louis. And when he came back to the corner after Conn's rally in the 12th round, Blackburn told him, "You better go out and get him, Chappie. We're going to lose the title."
Another short right uppercut to the jaw, and Conn is in trouble, but he fights.
I went out to try to knock him out, and naturally your hands as you're down and this and that, and you get hit. I lost all sense of thinking about not getting hit. I was worrying about hitting him and not worrying about safety first for me, see.
Louis hooks the left hand to the jaw. Conn is being driven around the ring by Louis. He is badly hurt, but he won't go down. Conn is staggering. Louis hooks a left to the jaw, a right hand to the jaw, another left to the jaw by Louis, a crushing right to the jaw, and Conn slowly goes to the canvas. The referee, Eddie Joseph, comes over. The count is reached 4.
I was in a great fight with Joe Louis. It was great until the 13th round. I run into trouble there, so I'll have to forget about it now.
Well, it was a great fight tonight. I know that Uncle Mike's going to give me another chance, and I know I can win it. I guess I had too much to win for tonight, and I tried to knock him out. Otherwise, I'd have won easy.
Comebacks, just like in the movies. Mike, all the great fighters had sensational comeback victories that they're remembered for. Do you envision that happening to you someday?
Of course, because coming back from the brink of destruction always shows greatness. And I believe I'm a great fighter, and I look forward to being put in that category one day as I prove my longevity. And as far as great fighters like Louis, Billy Conn, and Willie Pep all come back from the brink of destruction, I believe all great fighters, mostly in the twilight of their career, find themselves in a disastrous situation, and when they call for all their resources and pull themselves together and come back victorious. And that's the marking of a great fighter.
What was your favorite knockout of all time?
My favorite knockout I have to recall is Jersey Joe Walcott when he was knocked out by Joe Louis in the 11th round. My reason, because a year previous, they fought and Walcott gave him a beat and outboxed him, outsmarted him, and at the end of the fight, they gave the decision to Joe Louis, which a lot of people felt was being justified with wrongly. So they fought again. And the same thing was about to happen. Louis on the verge of being stopped and came back, put everything together from the Louis of 1939 and rallied back to stop Walcott.
Well, my favorite knockout may surprise you because I like to give some credit to contemporary fighters.
Yeah, I know you do. I know you do.
Even you.
Disagree with.
But I want to give credit to someone who had a knockout that was emotionally very appealing and satisfying to me, and that was not a knockout fighter. It was Larry Holmes when he beat Jerry Cooney. Holmes had been a terrific pro. He had been a dominant champion. And Jerry Cooney really hadn't earned his way there. He had sort of been hyped there and maneuvered there, even though he was a talented young fighter at the time. And when Holmes stopped him, to me, it was a vindication that the professional came through and beat the guy who hadn't really proved himself as a professional yet. Who was your favorite knockout fighter?
Once again, I must say Joe Louis. The reasons because accurate, counter-punching, precise, precision. There was no one like him. He hit you at the right places, placed every one of his punches. He even did funny things sometime when he hit you. He did 360s. You bounced off the canvas at least a foot. You're going out the ring. You just don't move. You quiver. And it was just something amazing to see.
Of course, I love Joe Louis, and Sugar Ray Robinson was a hero of mine when I was a kid with those dramatic wins. But I want to give credit again to some contemporary fighters.
Yes, I know you do.
Wilfredo Gomez, great bantamweight. Roberto Duran as a lightweight and a welterweight. Marvin Hagler. Tommy Hearns knocked guys out from the welterweight division all the way up to the light heavyweight division. And someday, you too, as a heavyweight, may be in the footage side of this show and not just sitting there in the chair.
Well, believe me, I'll be looking forward to that day.
So this show now has gone the distance, but we do hope it's been a knockout for you. On behalf of Mike Tyson and HBO Sports, I'm Larry Merchant.
I had a grandmother that lived a very long life, 112 years. That's a long time. And I come home one day and I was crying, and she asked me what I was crying for. And I told her, I said, the boy's taking my money. I was shining shoes at the time. And she said, you mean to tell me you crying? I cried, yes. She told me to pull my clothes off. I went there, she gave me the worst whooping of my life. Told me no walker, run from no one. And if you ever run again, they're gonna have to, police gonna have to come get me because I'm gonna murder you. And you stand there and you fight until the blood run into your shoes, don't you run. And from that time on, that's what I done.
We left the ring, and the next thing I know, I'm standing in my dressing room. And I told the manager, how'd I get here? He said, what do you mean, how'd you get here? You walked here. I had no recollection at all of leaving the ring, after I left the ring, of how I got to the dressing room. It was like I went out again, except I walked and everything else, but I knew nothing of that period in my life.
I got a tough break. I could have won the title, kept for about 6 months. I went around the corner, told all the guys I'm the heavyweight champion and let you win it back in 6 months. He looked at me, he says, you had it for 12 rounds, you couldn't keep it. How the hell were you going to keep it for 6 months?
This has been a presentation of HBO Sports, the network of champions.